you very much. This is, whoops.
Oh, yep, that little note comes on there.
Okay, so last year, I happened to, just on a fluke, because it was COVID and this was an outdoor event, I attended Earth Day at Wesley United Methodist Church on 48th Avenue, and I didn't realize until this week that the event was the brainchild of today's speaker, Mick, the trash talking diva. You love saying that whole thing, Mick, the trash talking diva. And I also happen to know that Mick is in charge of this year's celebration as well. It's at that event, that Earth Day, that I learned that glass could be recycled. And more importantly, I found out that one person could make things happen and could actually make progress in the climate crisis we're facing and help alleviate the overuse of our landfills. I'm still learning, and you will too after meeting today's most welcome speaker. Mick, see if you can convert some of these other folks like you converted me, okay?
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
Great. All right. So welcome, Mick.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Thanks for that great introduction. Thank you, Mary Lou and Chrissy for doing this, for inviting me and having me here. I like to talk trash. And when I talk trash, I'm talking about recycling. Studies show that 90% of consumers say it's important to divert recyclables from landfills. We all do some recycling, right? So let's talk about what we're able to recycle here in Yakima and Sela. Paper, cardboard, metal cans. There's a list of a good portion of what we are able to recycle here. And there's different, it makes it difficult that you can't just throw it into your recycling bin each or every other week. You know, you have to go to different places, and especially like with electronics, you know, Goodwills will take your electronics, and then you have to go to the landfill to do your hazardous waste materials. And down at the bottom here, I have listed plastics, which is not really happening here, but I put that on there just to make mention that I hate plastics. But as you'll notice, there's one item missing from this list, and it's been called the ultimate recyclable. Any guesses on what I'm referring to?
Glass.
Yes, yes, good old glass, yes, yes. And why it's called the ultimate recyclable is that it is endlessly recyclable without loss of quality or purity. That beer bottle, wine bottle, pickle jar you have on your shelf and in your refrigerator, up to 95% of that container could be recycled glass. And it could be glass that has been recycled over and over and over again. Also, more than a ton of natural resources is saved for every ton of recycled glass used in your glass containers. It also, by using recycled glass, by recycling our glass, we're reducing the carbon emissions from the mining and transportation of those raw materials for the manufacture of glass. Okay, let's talk about numbers, let's talk about more numbers associated with glass recycling. 28 billion containers every year end up in the landfill. That would be that would fill the Empire State Building, that third building from the left there, 2 times every 3 weeks. And when we compare the US rate of recycling glass to other countries, it's appalling. Europe recycles at 74%. Sweden, Belgium, and Slovenia, they're recycling at 31%. And the US, they're recycling at 31%. Let's break down the glass recycling rate in the US at 31%. Currently, there are 10 states that have bottle return laws. The overall recycling in those states with the bottle return laws is 63% when you compare it to the overall rate of 31%. Oregon itself, they have had their law for over 50 years now, and they recycle glass at 73%. And the 40 states without a bottle bill, they recycle at 24%. Recently, Oregon also upped their deposit from 5 to 10 cents a container. And currently, there's a legislation that would create a nationwide container deposit system working its way through Congress. It would hopefully pass next year in 2023. Yeah. Having lived in Oregon and recycled, living under the bottle bill, a lot of the bottles are soda bottles, water bottles. It doesn't address the bottle bills. Don't address like your pickle jars and the everyday food containers. It takes care of those water bottles and soda bottles, but not the everyday or the containers that are used for other foods. So some of you are recycling your glass, right? It hasn't been easy. I know before I started Yakima Recycled Glass, we would send it over to Seattle with friends or take it to the Randall landfill. And we also recently found that Richland has glass recycling drop-off. So Yakima Recycles Glass collects glass here in Yakima, transports it to Ellensburg, where we use their little $8,000 machine to crush the containers into new glass. I started Yakima Recycles Glass 2 years ago with the help of Rob Strader. Some of you maybe know Rob Strader. And I think it was through Rob's posting on Facebook about the group in Ellensburg wanting to start glass recycling in the area. So Rob and I worked it out that he would manage the volunteers needed to transport and crush the glass, and I would do the rest of the work. So January of 2021, Ellensburg group had bought their crushing machine. And next month, February, they were training people in the crushing process and what they call ambassadors. They run their program different from us. And then in March, we sent up, I believe, 4 people to be trained as ambassadors. And April of 2021, we collected 300 pounds of glass. And I believe there were 25 people on our list of people recycling glass. That was in April of 2021. By August, we had 60 people that we were collecting glass from. And 2 months later, in October, we set up the drive-in drop-off, where people, first Saturday of the month, people are notified and they come and drop off their glass, and we are still working out the details, but we take it up to Ellensburg and crush it. The last few months we've been collecting on average 1,000 pounds a month. And I work with a great team of people, and we'll do that in 2 hours. We're able to do half a ton of glass in 2 hours. So now we're doing 1,000 pounds a month, and we currently have 160 people on our list of people notified and dropping off glass. Not everybody, on average, we see 25 to 30 people a month dropping off glass. So it's not the whole 160 every month dropping off glass, thank goodness. Ellensburg glass recycling is possible because they have the support of the local Rotary Club, the Ellensburg Morning Rotary Club. And they are also working with businesses, Central Washington University, the city, and the state to create a market for the crushed glass, which they call new sand. And here's more numbers. The sand can be used as sand or gravel in backfill and foundation projects. It's used it's called, the crushed glass is called cullet. And it's also used for landscape mulch, drainage, used in pavements, as backfill for retaining walls, as bedding material under sidewalks and water service lines. It substitutes fine grained sand for 2-inch sand cushion layer, the 2-inch layer normally used. Constantly hearing about new ways of using recycled glass. Since here the transportation of glass is so expensive because of the weight. It's so expensive, and so it's pretty much kept here. It is all kept locally. But new ideas are coming up. And this past week, I read about how the co-inventor of the ion battery has come up with and working on a patent for a glass battery. So using glass in a battery, and it for batteries for anywhere from cell phones to electric vehicles. And these glass batteries, they store more energy, charge faster, and are more stable than the common commercial coin cell batteries. And then, since I read about this battery, one of the founders of the Ellensburg co-op, she said that she had seen where the silica, which glass is when it's crushed, is being used in paint as a fire protectant. So it would be painted, I guess, on the outside, maybe the inside of houses to suppress fires. Okay. one more slide about with numbers. This is just households in Yakima, and it's 3 years old. But when we look at 160 households, it's less than 1% of the people are using our service. And that's fine. I don't have the volunteers. I'm not out there beating the pavement trying to get more people to use the service just now, because I lack the volunteers. But and I also have more news about going forward here. But say I did have the volunteers and able to collect, even bring that less than 1/3 up to 5%, that would be 110 ton of glass recycled every year. Also, I have information on a 2021 feasibility study done by Kittitas County. They were generous enough to involve Yakima County and Grant County in their study. And the numbers for this is just a small sample, a very small sample of the numbers and the research that went into this feasibility study. If anybody would like me to forward this to you, it is eye-opening. With Kittitas County, it shows doing 1,900 tons of glass. And I think that was probably when they still had their recycling, which ended in 2019. But that, that's quite a difference. That's quite a big difference. So going forward, we're looking at the future, and this Friday, we're having our first meeting to form a nonprofit. So we'll be able to be like the Neighbors Network and do fundraising, apply for grants, and eventually purchase a machine. Long-term vision for the ultimate recyclable: increase the use of recycled glass by increasing the market demand for the end product, educate businesses on the use of the cullet, the crushed glass, and lure new businesses that use the cullet in their manufactured products. And then ultimately, we've talked about, with the Ellensburg group, ultimately, the vision is to have a regional glass facility. Oh, I'm missing my, I don't know why that came up. Here's the little machine that we use, the little $8,000 machine. And it's a workhorse. We go up there, like I said, with 1,000 pounds, and in 2 hours, we put it through its paces. And a machine for Yakima, I think that we would go with a much larger machine, probably a $90,000 machine. This little $8,000 machine is coming to the end of its second year, and I just have my fingers crossed that thing holds up. I mean, it works fine, but until we can get something here in Yakima, I hope it lasts. And as Linda said, she found out about Yakima Recycles Glass at the Earth Day Fair this past April. And I'll make mention that it was Yakima's, as far as I can find, it was Yakima's first Earth Day Fair. And it was a learning experience. Lessons were learned. And so one of the changes is that we've already started working on next year's fair. But it's the work of the volunteers in both the glass recycling and the Earth Day Fair that we run on energy, on volunteer energy. And I want to also mention that the Earth Day Fair, that nationwide Earth Day has claimed the theme for the 2023 Earth Day is being invest in our planet. So I'm going to stop there and open it up for anybody that has questions.
Yeah, I just noticed in that last slide, the person feeding the bottle into the machine, that bottle had a label on it. So why do we have to take the labels off? Because I cannot get the labels off. I've tried all the tricks that I've ever heard of. I've tried Googling, I've tried boiling water, I've tried soaking it overnight. So if you have, okay,
Okay,
that's it.
that is an early on picture, and she's also feeding it in the reverse way. She's in the wrong way, but I know the labels are a problem, and all I can say is boiling water poured on the inside up to the top of the label,
I've tried it.
and then outside, and even so, even so the whole bottle submerged in boiling water. And every bottle, I've had bottles where I had one label come off easily while the other one, it's still, as long as you're making an attempt to get most of the paper off. We started that because we are doing 1,000, we're going up there and doing 1,000 pounds. And the glass that doesn't have labels, we will start off crushing those, and we call it a clean crush, and that is more marketable than the bottles without labels. And third, this bigger, larger machine that I would like to get for Yakima, we don't have to remove the labels. We won't have to remove the metal and the plastic bands and the foil wraps. So, that'll solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, yay, okay.
I hear
Thank
you.
you.
Drink Corona beer because they just paint the label on.
Yes, some of us are choosing our wines and beers by how easy it is to get the labels off. Some are
Good
very
for you.
and some are really hard. And so experiment. I mean, my feeling is we might just, I mean, you don't want us, Mick, to bring ones with labels still on if we can't get them off, do you?
Yes,
It's okay.
keep them out of the landfill. I'm all for keeping everything out of the landfill. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but we should try. Linda.
Well, Mick, do you want, I get an idea of the wineries. They sell so, especially here in Yakima, we have so many wineries. They sell the wine and then they do not reuse the bottle. And Mick explained to me why, what's going on with, why can't they reuse their bottle? Why can't they purify it and reuse it?
Go ahead. Oh, it's a lot of the winery, it would involve buying a few $1,000 machine that would, each individual winery would need to buy a machine and that would clean and sanitize. It's like going to a restaurant, and your glasses are put through a sanitation process. Each bottle does that. I guess the wineries, they don't want to spend the money on that, and the added labor in doing that. But it is definitely, a sanitation problem.
What do they do in Oregon, Mick, about wine bottles?
There are, I think they just started putting it on the return on some of them. For the longest time, there was no return. And if there is a return label, a deposit return on the wine bottle, it's a wine that was made in Oregon.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's one of the parts, Mick, that I heard was that, or that I read about, was that the reason they don't sanitize their bottles and reuse them is because it's taking money away from the state that they normally get a percentage. The state takes a percentage of each bottle. And if they are reusing them, then the state is losing money. Do you think that could be part of the problem?
Here in Washington, that's what you heard?
Ed,
Yeah.
can you explain it better than I did?
I wasn't quite following you there. I had kind of had my mind on something different.
Okay. Well, we
I was
heard,
remember we read about the wineries, that the reason they didn't sanitize their, because they can't.
We're having trouble hearing you, Linda.
I think what
On
she's
each-
saying is, we heard that there's a tax issue involved, that the bottles somehow got taxed at the winery, and if they reuse them, then the state lost tax. Alcohol tax, I thought it was. Does anybody remember more than I do about that? From our-
Pretty sure that's what John DeBari, who does wine, told me. That if you're actually selling it, there's some issue. He reuses his wine bottles, but he just gives the wine to people, so there's not an issue.
Okay.
I was gonna
You know,
mention-
to get question about the labels,
Yeah.
if you manage to label off, like this one came off really easily, and I thought it was totally clear. And I just stuck it in the dishwasher because I had a spot. And when it came back, now it still has tiny little lines of glue. Would that make it ineligible for the clean crush?
I don't believe so. It's hard to tell, but I don't think so. I just remembered another trick that I've used before on labels, and is to make a paste up of, I use coconut oil and baking soda and smear it on the label. Get as much paper off as you can, smear it on there, leave it on there for however long, and it will soften the labels and the paste too. I mean, it really cleans the glass. Also, I saw on YouTube a lady would spray, I thought she said that she sprayed coconut oil. You'd have to keep it liquid, warm and liquidy, but she sprayed her coconut oil and left it on the bottles for like overnight, which sounds extreme. But she claims that, the labels, she was putting it on, not even trying to remove any of the paper. It was just on the full label. So maybe somebody would want to try those two methods and see if those work for you.
One thing I've tried is to use a paint scraper. And I soak them with the water, hot water inside and outside in the sink. And then I just come back and I just make stripes with the paint scraper, and it takes it off just in little, and then I come back later and then the rest of it loosens up better. I think it gets the water in there better or something, but the paint scraper has really been helpful
Okay,
compared to when I hadn't thought of that.
good. Good to know.
Ed?
Yeah, if you go on YouTube and just kind of enter in the search field how to get labels off glass or something like that, you'll come up with a number of videos that kind of walk you through the process. One that I tried recommends using this product. This is Fabuloso. You can get it like Fred Meyer, but it's basically a cleaner, but it's got baking soda in it.
Yeah.
And what I do is I just get a bucket, you know, it's what is it, like probably a 2-gallon bucket. I have it in my laundry sink downstairs in the basement. And I put in about 3 parts water and then another part of the Fabuloso. And I just soak the bottles overnight, basically, in that. And it can just be room temperature water. It does not have to be hot. And it does a pretty good job of loosening the labels up. Sometimes I use a paint scraper if I've got a label that's really stubborn. But a lot of the labels, they'll come off pretty easily. I drink a lot of, I like wine, so I usually do it with wine bottles. And some wine bottle labels will come off easier than others. It kind of depends on the product, you know, but anyway, you might check out that Fabuloso with baking soda and try that.
Are you saying it has baking soda in it, or you add baking soda?
Well, it's got baking soda in the bottle itself. It's right on the label. You can.
Okay. Hey, Fabuloso. I like it.
Yeah, with baking soda. And yeah, like I say, about 3 parts water, 1 part Fabuloso. And I just basically I can use the same solution. Every now and then I'll top it off because it'll evaporate, but I'll use the same solution for like a month, you know.
Okay, great.
I really question why like boiling water would do any better than just warm water. It doesn't seem to me that would be useful. I just use, if I've got a pot sitting in my sink that I haven't gotten around to washing yet, I just stick the jar in there till the next day and it's not warm. And I think a lot of the dirt from whatever food was in this pot helps out as well. You know, the more organic solvent you got sliming and in there, the better.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I think it might be just partly a timing thing. I never use warm water, just really dilute dish soap, not, nothing special, nothing expensive. And just first you try and get the paper off and then go back and try and get more besides the paint scraper, which is good. But I actually have some razor blades that, are blunted on one side, and that makes it come off really easy once it's been sitting in there. And I'm new to this, but I've never used warm water, and just as long as you have a sink to let it sit in for a while. But I actually had a question though, Mick, on the Oregon like pop bottles. Do they then refill those, or are they crushing those for some?
A lot of some of their pop bottles are plastic, which getting some of the plastic out of the waste system. I'm not sure. There is in Portland, I believe there is a Owens Corning that does manufacture new glass from recycled glass. So they probably do. I would imagine that they are recycling all their glass into new glass.
Because that's recycling. What we're doing is, and it's great. It's not going to the landfill, but you're finding new uses for it, that we're not making more glass out of it. We're burying it under roads and stuff for sand and things like that, right? Which is the best we can do because it's so expensive to transport it. And you said something about, I'm talking about a nationwide bottle tax, which sounds great. And, I'm not being negative at all, but I'm wondering, so if they do that, then what's going to happen to all the plastic that we return? They've got to have steps further down the road to actually use what comes back, right?
Yes, they do. Yeah. We'll see what happens. But if there's, if the legislation passes, states and people are going to have to change, and why wait for legislation to make us change? You know, we daily, we need to be working on rethinking and changing our ways.
So this legislation doesn't say that the pop has to be put in a glass bottle. It still lets you use plastic. You're just going to pay a deposit.
Yes, that's how it works in the current states that have a deposit. There is you pay the deposit when you buy the bottle, and there's a barcode on it saying how much you're paying and how much will be returned. And when you're done with the bottle, you take it in and you turn it in and you get your money back. But as you saw, only like in Oregon, 67% of those bottles that are going out, only 67% are coming back.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm originally from Michigan, and when I was a kid, we always had deposits on bottles. And more recently, like about 2006, when I moved my mom out here, I was there for a while. And I took bottles back to the grocery store. They had some sort of conveyor belt where you put them on, and then they give you, you know, a coupon thing. You get so much. Actually, I can't remember whether you took it up through the cash register or whether you got the money back right there. But I don't remember any of it being plastic bottles. Maybe they were. I was thinking it was all glass.
It's both. In Oregon, it's both plastic and glass. All soda water bottles are, and now they're doing it with some wines. They have a deposit. Yes, yeah. And then they also offer glass recycling, curbside glass recycling beside that.
Nick, I called down to Tri-Cities, and they said that they lose money on every ton they take to Portland. So they didn't know how long they'd be doing it, but they were still doing it now. But then I looked up the place they took it in Portland, and I don't know, I think they were violating some kind of environmental thing. I mean, it's kind of a crazy choice.
It's true of the one in Seattle too. My Rob Strader, who helped me found the Yakima recycled glass, he had done a lot of research on the foundry in Seattle, and it's right on the river, and it's probably it's old, using coal for fuel, and so we need to come up with new ways.
Linda, I cut you off. I didn't mean to. Go ahead, Linda. Your sound is off, Linda. We can't hear you. Oh.
Nope. My sound is,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I wasn't really asking anything.
I came a little late, and you may have gone over this. I looked into this 4 or 5 months ago and had trouble finding you. And I'm confused about what glass bottles you can take. Most of our glass is wine bottles, and I thought maybe they were too thick. You take all glass now?
We do take all glass, but we ask that you remove the labels, at least make an attempt to remove the labels, because of the volume that we are doing. We are crushing up to 1,000 pounds when we go up there, and it's the labels on the bottles is very taxing on this little $8,000 machine that we use.
But they do. You do
So
take,
thickness of the glass isn't a concern any longer.
It
Only
is.
was.
It is, but we look at the glass being offered for recycling, and we will let you know if it is too heavy. At the same time, there are times in the year when we will take all glass. There is a fellow up in Ellensburg who takes the heavier bottles, and he's using an old cement mixer and turning it into sea glass. And that's how Ellensburg is making some of its money by selling sea glass.
Yep, but Linda, most of us have been taking wine bottles all along and they've never been turned down. So you can pretty much count on your wine bottles. going.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What is sea glass?
What is sea glass? It is tumbled glass. He takes these huge bottles, he takes the heavier bottles and breaks them down and then tumbles them through, I think it's 48 hours in this cement mixer with water. And it's run, I can run and grab some.
I think I understand. What you're saying is what he's doing is what the sea would have done to it if you had thrown it in the sea. It
Yes,
just becomes all round pebbles.
yes, and kind of frosted and scratched up and yeah, well,
Is he turning around and selling it as sea glass?
yes. Yeah, they were selling it at the farmer's market up in Ellensburg this last year. Yeah.
Wow.
What do
Yeah.
they use it for?
Um,
Decoration or?
yeah, I've made some pictures just for fun and given them away. But and then people are making, I also made jewelry, mostly, I had the jewelry at the Earth Day fair, but just for demonstration, to show what can be done with it. I am on Pinterest every day looking at ideas. So if you want ideas about how to use sea glass, just look on Pinterest or call it up on Google and they'll come up with they'll give you ideas.
What's the biggest diameter bottle you can take in the Ellensburg crusher?
We're not able to take the gallon jugs.
Or
Like,
anything smaller than the gallon jug?
yes, and like I said, we'll if a lot of your liquor bottles are really heavy, and we'll take them for most of the year. We'll take them and take them up to Jack, and he'll turn them into a sea glass. He's not able because it involves where they are located in Ellensburg is at the cemetery, the IOOF cemetery. And they have this uninsulated bare floor shed that they're working out of. And so we stopped operation in December. I'm not sure if we'll have a pickup this December, especially with the weather. But the machine is not able to be used in temperatures below 35 degrees. And so last year we didn't operate in January and then held off until mid-February to collect any more glass. But at the same time, the fellow that is doing the sea glass, it's a cement mixer and he uses water. And so it's difficult to have water out there at 30 some degrees. So he stops operation probably. I am not even sure, he may have stopped already operation, but so I would say through March through October, we'll definitely take heavy glass.
Great.
Would it be a good idea or helpful if somehow we spoke to the city council and asked to support the idea of using the underlayment in our roads? Like, I don't know what goes under our roads here in Yakima, but they certainly are, replacing them all the time.
Yeah.
Isn't that the city council's call that they would support that, if they would support that?
Yeah. Well, the state has come out and said that they allow up to, I believe it's 22% of the underlayment to be recycled glass. So, the road departments are aware of that fact. It's just that, they haven't had that available to them in the past. And so they're, we, when we get organized into a nonprofit, marketing is going to be a big part of what we do. And so we will be talking to the city and the county and the state about using our product. Oh, also, when Ellensburg started up, like I mentioned, that they're at the IOOF cemetery up in Ellensburg, and which the cemetery donates the building, but the cullet that was produced at first was used in the bottom of the graves instead of purchasing sand and level out for the concrete liners that they use.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like, is this correct, Mick, that once your nonprofit gets going, you're going to be thinking about getting a bigger machine in Yakima? You're going to be thinking about marketing in Yakima, and probably if we're interested in supporting that, we need to stay in touch with you about what the needs are, right? Is that true?
That's
Because you're
correct.
probably a strategy that you're going to want to follow, and we want to support that. That's great.
I probably overdo it sometimes, but I do try to keep the 160 people on our list updated as to what is going on. And it was 2 weeks ago that I sent out the notification that what we were looking at in going forward. And I said, after the new year, let's look at turning us into a nonprofit. And I heard back from people and they wanted to start right now. So we're starting right now.
Good. Well, fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Are there other questions of Mick? This has been really helpful, and thanks to everybody who contributed their ideas about getting labels off. But thanks for the overview, Mick, to help us understand the bigger issues. And we wish you very well, and maybe some of us can step up and help in some more ways. We'll think about that. That's great.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Linda,
Been very helpful.
Linda Drew, do you have another question? Your sound is off, Linda.
I'm sorry, do you think you'll be open on the 3rd of December, or is that weather dependent?
It's weather dependent, with the temperatures what they are. I'm not going to promise. We are committed to do it, but it will depend on the temperatures. If you're on our list, I send.
Get on your list. Linda, is that what you're asking? How to get on her
Yeah,
list?
I'm not on your list. Is it in the newspaper or?
No, let me put it in the comment section and.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
And then Chrissy can send it out when she sends out the notification about this meeting.
Good.
Yeah, Chrissy can send it out. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, because I'm getting, Linda, I'm getting all of Mick's emails about what days she's doing the drop off, what days she's not. Yep. Good. Well, thanks so much, Mick. We really appreciate this. And here's to all the work you've done, and we hope it continues to thrive. We're really impressed.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I have a couple quick announcements. We've got next Zoom talk is November 30th. That we've got Ed Edica from Yakima Networking. He's going to talk about common questions that people bring in about their computers and some really important, useful, basic information about computers, PCs, Macs, laptops, desktops, iPads, any of those. And he's going to do questions and answers. He's an interesting guy. I think you'll enjoy that. And then we have our December 6th potluck. This is about the 5th year. We've been at the Larson Gallery during the Central Washington show. It's a wonderful evening, and we're going to try to make it very festive. We need to be festive these days, we've decided, especially if it's gray like it was today. There's going to be giveaway centerpieces, so come join us. And the other thing is, in relation, you probably noticed there's quite a few climate and environment related things going on, and that's partly because we have an interest group. And if anyone wants to join it, it's open. But one of the things that interest group is really encouraging all of us to do is to team up with a Harmon Center that is taking on a challenge to get 500 pounds of plastics. And what's great about this project is it educates us about new kinds of plastics that we didn't realize we could recycle: bubble wrap, any kind of stretchy plastic. And you'll be getting emails again from, it started yesterday, which was National Recycle Day, I think. It's going to end on Earth Day. But if they get 500 pounds of plastic, then it turns into a Trex bench, and they get that bench donated to the Harmon Center. And they're in competition with Ellensburg, so we want to help them win. So help us help them by recycling your plastic, stretchy glass. And what you can go to the Harmon Center, they have a neat setup table that shows everything they'll take, or just look at what Chrissy sends you and start collecting. I already have a huge bag of stuff. It doesn't weigh 500 pounds, however, so I need your help. We all need your help. They do. So join us on that.
Mary Lou,
Yes.
you're not keeping track. We're not keeping track in any way what part of that we donated. We're just telling people about it, right?
Yeah, we're just helping. We're just helping.
Okay, Don, I got a question.
Yeah.
This